Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, the Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post for Parshas Vayakhel is going to discuss two important points that come out from a very interesting Rashi in this week's Parsha that discusses the contributions and the donations that the Bnei Israel gave towards the Mishkan, and in particular, the mirrors that the Jewish women gave towards the Mishkan. Because Rashi explains, based on the Medrash, that at first Moshe Rabbeinu did not want to accept these copper mirrors of the women for the Mishkan, because Moshe Rabbeinu viewed the mirrors as being something which has negative connotations, something that arouses or plays into the Yetzer Hara. It's based on this idea that if you look in the mirror, it's a focus on oneself, perhaps playing into the idea of vanity, of arrogance, of physical appearance, externality, and Moshe Rabbeinu felt that was inappropriate, not something that is fitting towards the Mishkan. Where the Kodesh Baruch Hu came and said, in contrast, that the mirrors are in fact most favorable to him for the contribution towards the Mishkan, because it's something that the women of the Bnei Israel would use to look at themselves to make sure that their appearance was favorable and attractive towards their husbands, so that there should be love and connection and affection towards between a husband and a wife. And this was therefore in a way a polar opposite way of viewing, a polar conceptualization of what the mirror stood for. In the one hand, it has this negative connotation and is viewed as something which relates to the Yetzer Hara, in the way that Moshe Rabbeinu viewed the mirror, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu looked at it in a different way and saw it as something which generates love and affection and attraction. So what can we take out from this? There's two different points from a psychological perspective. One is based on the idea of self-esteem. If we look at this idea of self-esteem, one way of defining it is what happens, or what do you see when you look into the mirror? What's reflected back at you? When you look at the mirror, what you see is that somebody that you enjoy looking at, makes you feel good, gives you a sense of satisfaction. And that, in a way, is a representation of self-esteem. That it's a test of what do you see looking back at you, what's reflected back at you. Because unfortunately, there are many people that when they look in the mirror, or when they look at themselves, there's an external and an internal sense of ugliness. That there's this sense that they are worthless, that they themselves do not have a value, they're not somebody that has skills or talents and are able to contribute to the world, and that their life in a sense is meaningless. And it's when they look at the mirror, what they see back is something that causes disdain, something that repels them in a way. And this is, in a way, a metaphor. A mirror is a metaphor for one's self-esteem. And when a person works on self-esteem and works on themselves and is able to identify and really build up their self-esteem, what they will see reflected back at them when they look in the mirror is somebody that they take pleasure in, that they see this person that gives them an image of strength, of quality, of purpose, of direction. And this is a strong self-esteem. So if we look at this mirror, this idea of what does the mirror stand for, we can take this message of this different ways of viewing what a mirror stands for. What do you see back? Is it something which represents negative connotations, negative qualities, or in fact, the mirror is a source of pleasure, a source of pride, a source of affection and love? This is in a way, a representation of low self-esteem and high self-esteem. And more than this, we can look at it in a different way in terms of the cognitive understanding or technique of reframing. We have these copper mirrors. And in a way, there's one way of viewing it. Moshe Rabbeinu viewed it as being something which is negative. HaKadosh Baruch Hu viewed it as being something which is positive and actually would bring about connection between husband and wife and bring about a connection of marital relations and birth of children and the growth and development of the Bnei Yisrael. If we look at cognitive reframing, what often is done, and we try to use this in therapy, is to take a behavior, take a certain action, and sometimes it can be viewed, one way of viewing it is in a negative way. Perhaps it's seen as detrimental to a person, or parents are worried about the way that a child is behaving, if they're acting out, if they're seemingly perhaps acting in a rebellious way. Sometimes it can be seen as if like the child is the problematic child, that the parents don't understand why the child is acting this way. Reframing is saying that a person can view the behavior in one way. That's seemingly their view of the situation in this way, based on their understanding, based on their conceptualization of the issue, of the context. But when we reframe, it allows a certain flexibility and to, in a way, expand a person's view of the situation to actually say maybe there is something adaptive in this situation, that the mirror can actually be viewed not only as something which relates to the Yetzer Hara or relates to vanity, but can be reframed as being positive, leading to the growth of the Bnei Yisrael and affection and love between a husband and wife. This is a cognitive reframing that perhaps if we look at the parents and child, a child's behavior can be reframed as a way of trying to gain attention of the parents, trying to show that they are in pain and they are suffering. So cognitive reframing is a very useful technique and tool to be able to not just spin something into a positive way, but to really understand that there is an adaptive quality, and that's what the Kadosh Baruch Hu was showing Moshe Rabbeinu, that there is an adaptive quality to these mirrors, and therefore they are fitting and should be used for the donations of the Mishkan. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.